I will say welcome again and very much appreciate you taking the time and joining us for today's town hall meeting. It's lovely to see all the different locations and the hellos in the chat from where everyone's joining us. And very much, again, appreciate whether it be breakfast time or bedtime, spending this time with us. Wonderful. So if we can show the agenda of what we have planned. I will start off by covering our achievements and the highlights of 2024, which was a really wonderful year. Then I will pass the baton to our colleague Martin, who will speak to us about our technology initiatives, followed by Blessing Maywar for what's going on with our Country Connectors program. Passing it then to Sarah Phibbs about our longer term strategy. And then lastly, you will have an option and an opportunity to pose your questions from what we've said and anything else that might be burning on your mind. So if that's okay with everyone, we will get on to the 2024 achievements. Thank you, Sarah. So a little reminder of the main SDG goal that the Research4Life contributes to. So number 17, partnerships of the goals. So there are 17 goals in the Sustainable Development Goals, of which 17.6 is enhancing north-south, south-south, and triangular regional and international cooperation on and access to science, technology, innovation. Our transformation goal is to address an inclusive, what's going on with this? There we go. Perfect. It's got a mind of its own. A diverse and equitable scholarly communications environment that ultimately enables lower income researchers to address societal challenges. Next slide, please. So here's maybe a slide you've seen before, and it's a recap of our current strategic plan. And looking at the image with very much the users in the center, and with the following it out, the connections of equity, and looking at the different initiatives that are highlighted and worked on throughout the plan. The emphasis is taking the plan and the partnership beyond donation. So going from content donation to reciprocal engagement, scholarly exchange, enhancing the global participation of our global research environment, and ultimately empowering the local research networks and enhancing their role in promotion of the development. Next slide, please. So taking a tour of last year through these 8 different elements. So you will be hearing, as I mentioned before, from Blessing with regards to the country connectors. The notable additions in 2024 were that Angola and Uganda joined us in the year. And so bringing it up to some 12 country connectors and associates. And Angola is the program's first Portuguese-speaking country. And this reflects the ongoing efforts to support non-English speaking researchers. This joins the onboarding of Spanish-speaking El Salvador and French-speaking Senegal and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and really much further strengthens the importance of local languages in increasing access to research resources. Under evidence base, at the GPM, which I will talk about more in a minute, there was a user journey mapping workshop that took place, the country connectors, and it was a practical oriented workshop in order to understand the process and with what's going on with the use of our current users. And it's helping to move us forward in our strategies. And it is in the process of being further expanded. So we will be able to share more with you at a future session. So under user-led, as I mentioned, the general partners meeting. So in 2024, it was held in Nairobi and hosted by UNEP, the United Nations Environment Program. Now, this was a really special moment to be able to have a GPM in a country and area of so many of our users. And a real big outcome from, well, one of the outcomes from that was what we call a declaration on Research for Life as an enabler for the future of humanity. So what is that? That is which we declared, we, the members of the Research for Life Partnership, having convened for the first time in Africa, declare our steadfast commitment to advancing global access to academic and professional, peer-reviewed information resources as a critical enabler for the future of humanity. Just let that one sink in for a little bit. So under that, we highlighted strategic contributions to global development, how Research for Life is a pillar of the UN's vision, and our commitment to the future. So this declaration can be found on our website. So during the general partners meetings, there are so many bits of information that are shared and teased, and a really very extra special was something called Action for Equity. And during that, there was a panel, there were a couple of panels, one on perspectives on supporting an inclusive research world, and another one on investing in a fairer, more sustainable world from a funder's perspective. Thank you for sharing the declaration in the chat, Evelyn. So, like an example of this first panel, it's all my. There we go. The discussion highlighted the critical need for patience, partnership, and a multifaceted approach to creating an inclusive research world. And personal stories and practical insights underscored the transformative power of the collaboration and the collective effort in our efforts to ultimately try to bridge the research gap. So there were impact stories from representatives from Bhutan and Liberia. It was just one of those meetings that you come away from with your head just full of so many wonderful things. So what else do I have to? The leadership. So the Equity Committee was formed in 2024, and this committee aims to increase representation and participation of researchers from low and middle income countries. So we have two new chairs, Nazra Gatoni and Matt Giapola, as the chairs of this new committee. And the last point under this area is that our new vice chair-elect, so Professor Tandy Luaga, so she joined, and since the vice chair of the Executive Council, so joined in the mid of 2024 at the GPM. She has previously served as a Research for Life user representative from 2019 to 21, and she's currently the rector at the College of Business Education in Dar es Salaam. Under the box of DOAJ, so Research4Life last year, in collaboration with the Directory of Open Access Journals and the Academy of Science of South Africa, presented a series of workshops to promote open access and to enhance best practices in scholarly publishing. The Academy of Science of Social Africa published a blog on this if you'd like to dig more and learn more about it. So these sessions span multiple languages, including English, Spanish, French, and Ukrainian. They attracted over almost 900 registrants from 25 countries. And the program offered comprehensive modules on inclusion criteria, ethical publishing, maintaining research integrity, which ultimately equipped participants with essential knowledge for advancing open access. The next box highlights two impactful written works recently released. So the first is the impact report. Now, this is our first impact report, and this one's entitled Changing the Face of Global Research. And it was designed to show what we've achieved and to communicate our aspirations for the organization, the future of the organization. And the report takes you on a whirlwind tour of our activities. And there are lots of infographics and stories and photos, and really a nice digestible report to be able to understand the work that has happened to date and the direction of travel that we hope to go. The other impactful report came from my colleagues at WIPO. So for this study by leading researchers, so WIPO along with the University of Bundeswehr Munich and the German Economic Institute, this study revealed that free or low-cost online access to scientific publications provided by Research4Life programs results in a surge in scientific output, particularly in the health sciences, by up to 75% in low and middle income countries. 75%. So one of the authors, he can be quoted to say that there seems to be a causal link between lowering barriers to online access and to scientific publications and the increase in the scientific output of local researchers. He said that involvement in international clinical trials also grew by over 20%, suggesting that research and innovation in local institutions improved. So institutions in the Caribbean, Central Asia, Europe, Latin America saw their academic paper output increase by 80 to 100%. Remarkable. And this report is again available via the website and very much worth digging through. The next box, technology and access. Martin will be picking this up right after me. The quality content, we're always reviewing our content. And a gap analysis survey was carried out by our Content Strategy and Policy Committee, in which gaps were identified in the research content, and in particular in the areas of humanity, business, education, and information management. So follow-up is taking place, in which will include targeted focus groups and ongoing discussions with various publishers. The Bhutan Health Journal. Now, this is an interesting one. So this is quite an achievement for Bhutan's medical and academic community. So not only included in the Research4Life content portal, but it's been indexed in the Directory of Open Access Journals and Scopus. So these milestones mark a new chapter for the journal and ultimately enhancing its visibility and credibility on the global stage. So we will for that one. And last box. So the publisher's statement of intent. It can be as well accessed for those of you who are curious and maybe haven't yet signed. For those who have, they recognize that access to knowledge is a critical factor in addressing the world's biggest challenges. And they have reaffirmed, the publishers have reaffirmed their commitment to Research4Life's mission in fostering a globally inclusive research environment. So this recommitment aligns with the Research4Life Partnership's recent declaration of the enabler, the future of humanity, mentioned previously, and also links up to the outcomes of the UN Summit of the Future. If you don't yet know about that, can be shared or easily Googled, I'm sure. But ultimately, this supports the call from our UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, for a decade of action as publishers strive to advance research efforts that contribute to the SDGs. As I said before, it was a full, varied, and very action-packed year. Next slide, please, Sarah. And 2025 is proving to be as full and as active. So for your diaries, the GPM this July 22nd, 23rd, hosted by Oxford University Press. As with other meetings, there's an in-person possibility in addition as online. There will be dinner for moments to be able to collaborate and another half-day conference like the one I mentioned before. And that lineup will definitely be worth paying attention to. And we will be sending out subsequent announcements as we go. So if I remember the agenda correctly, it's now over to Martin. Yes, thank you.
I'm Martin, seated here at WHO, Geneva. I'm just going to provide a quick overview about the technology initiatives, but I'm just going to focus on the work we did with the Ubuntu Alliance and GEAN to implement a federated single sign-on solution. Yes, all the good things that Liz highlighted that we did last year, that we also continue to do, all aimed at providing access to scholarly information to users, to our user community. So our role as the tech committee is to ensure that we continuously improve the user experience as they access this, address limitations to access issues, but also align with the industry standards and ensure that ultimately all the resources that we offer or we provide are accessible. And so in the past, we provided users shared usernames and passwords. Okay, that has been the standard practice and the easiest approach to ensure that users can log in to the content portal and access resources. In addition to that, we added IP authentication that ensured that if you're within your university environment or your institution, you could gain access. An institution would require a VPN or a proxy to use this kind of solution from off campus. And however, during COVID, we realized that many institutions didn't have the technical capabilities, to extend IP beyond their campuses. So not many had the VPNs or the proxies. So we implemented a persistent login, which enabled users to have like about 90 days of recognition when they have logged in from authorized IP ranges. So those solutions worked so well. Of course, they served our user needs. However, they all had limitations. We have heard from our user reviews, challenges shared about sharing passwords, unauthorized disclosure of these passwords, challenges when librarians or gatekeepers to knowledge leave institutions and those credentials are not properly shared or transferred, and also the limitations with the IPs and that I've highlighted. So we decided to work with our partners, Ubuntu Alliance and Giant, to implement the federated single sign-on solution as a pilot project. So next, Sarah. So this pilot project enabled us to work with the endpoints that are listed there on in the slides. And we were able to onboard those number of institutions as part of our pilot project. So the whole idea of the federated single sign-on project was to enable institutions to log in to Research4Life content portal using their own credentials that are given to them by their own institutions. So this would reduce the dependence on the shared username and passwords, and also the challenges posed by IP authentication that requires some extensions or some solutions for it to work well. So we onboarded those institutions, those number of institutions. The details are listed in article written by the communication team that is available on our website. And I've put a link on the chat of the details of the pilot project and the list of institutions that participated and the next plans. So you can get the details on the link or from our website or from the link on the chat. So those institutions were onboarded. We previously planned to include many other institutions, but some of them were not ready by that time. However, going to the next slide, I think, which is the most important thing, not the most important, but it's the last that I was going to talk about. So just here, allow me to highlight the advantages I was talking about. So the single sign-on definitely is going to improve user experience. The reason is that users can initiate searches or log in from within their university environments through IDP-initiated logins. So if you do the correct setup, you don't need to come to the content portal. You could start your search, you could start your processes from within your environments. So that will improve user experience. And then there's not going to be challenges of managing, user credentials, struggling with how to share them with your users and all that, because they are using their own credentials to log in. On our site, which eventually will also be for the institutions, is that we get better insights about who is logging in or who is accessing resources. Before, we only had a username that was used by thousands or hundreds of people. But now with the federated single sign-on, it's possible to get more granular access data. You'll know at least who is using. And then if we have more attributes there, you could know which departments or which set of users within your institutions are gaining access. So that is going to be important for decision-making and other things. We also notice with the partners that Research4Life coming on board was very helpful for the adoption of federated authentications. Giant has been working with the Ubuntu Alliance for years through the Africa Connect project, and it was initially difficult for them to get a buy-in because the institutions didn't have a reason to be part of federations. Excuse me, they didn't have resources to access through these federations. So there was basically no practical use case that Research4Life provided. And actually our coming on board has led to the success of this project. You know, there was the Africa Connect 1, Africa Connect 2, and then the Africa Connect 3, which has translated to tangible institutions being onboarded and using federations. So which is a very key thing to highlight here, that Research4Life coming on board has helped in the adoption and use of identity federations within the African region, and which is of course a very key infrastructure for scholarly communication. The last slide, Sarah. So in the last slide, we plan to scale this solution. That's the most important thing. So we have gotten commitment from our partners, the Ubuntu Alliance and GN, to scale this. So we are going to scale this solution to institutions across the African region and beyond that are ready. By ready, I mean institutions that are already registered with Research4Life or are eligible to register, institutions that are already part of a federation or will get onboarded to a federation within their countries, and institutions that have some technical support, either within their institutions, in-house, or from their NRENs. So those institutions, whether within Africa or beyond, that have those can reach out to us, and we can help onboard them. So basically the key thing here is that the institution has to be ready. And I'm going to emphasize that by readiness, they have to be registered with Research4Life or have to register. They have to be part of a federation, and then they have to have some technical support that will do the configuration on their side as we do what is necessary on the SP side to make sure that they can be onboarded and they can and then start using federated single sign-on and address the challenges with the existing solutions. However, I need to clarify that all other authentication solutions that I mentioned before will still remain in place. We are not replacing them. This is just additional. We do recognize that some of our user communities might not have the technical capabilities to get onboarded or to use this immediately. So we will keep all the other solutions. However, as institutions, grow their technical capabilities, they can add this to address some of the gaps that exist with the other solutions. So that's all. I was going to do a demo. Unfortunately, at WHO campus today, I might not be able to do a demo. However, if you go to Research4Life login page, you'll find that we have a regular login, or the standard login, and then below it, we have login via a federated single sign-on. And I must report that all onboarded institutions are already using this solution, and they're logging in via the single sign-on. And we encourage all of you who are here to help us spread the news to your institutions and to all parties that might be interested in this. And anyone who wants to get more details can reach to us through our help desk email. And thank you so much.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Martin. I'm sure there'll be questions. So if you have questions, please put them into, I don't think we have Q&A, maybe just the chat, and we'll attempt to answer them at the end. So we're handing over now to Blessing, who's going to talk about the Country Connector project as we embark on, we're in the third year of the project. So Blessing, I hope you can now share your screen. Super.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you to Martin. And hello to everyone. It's good to see a lot of familiar names and faces today. I'm going to talk about an update and a reflection on the past year of the Research4Life Country Connectors. In the last town hall that we had, I think we talked a lot about how we started the implementation and where we had been in the second year. So I'm going to reflect now on the last year and also highlight some of what has happened in the past 3 years of implementation. So I thought to start off, I'm going to show a bit of some of the faces of the different countries, instances, and some of the activities and work of the country connectors, and some of the environments in which they are working, and some of the infrastructure that is available or not available in their environments as well. So these are different views. The first one that I showed there was really from colleagues from Kyrgyzstan and colleagues there coming from Ghana. Then we have here a colleague from Bhutan, who's actually an ambassador, and I'll talk a bit more about our ambassadors in a short while. And we also have colleagues coming in from Uganda and Tanzania, and colleagues who are really working to make sure that we're working locally and also connecting globally. So like on the left side there, you find a meeting where it was a hybrid meeting being hosted in Ghana. We also have colleagues here showcasing a new chatbot that was developed specifically by the country connectors in El Salvador. So that's quite interesting, and I'll talk a bit about it when we talk about local communications. And then last year, I just wanted to also illustrate that the different environments we're working in, we have high resources where we've got access to high bandwidth and internet, and in some instances where we have low bandwidth or no hard infrastructure, where there's a lot of use of access through mobile phones. And we will still continue to make sure that we reach as many of the users and stakeholders via our virtual interactions as well. So I know one or two of my colleagues have already talked about the strategic plan for Research4Life, but I wanted to really illustrate that the country connectors' aim is to work locally in the countries and at regional level, but to ensure that this strategic plan of Research4Life is implemented, and that at the end we build those local skills and we build those local research ecosystems to enable the growth of knowledge economies in the countries that we work. And one big area for us, which is really being achieved through the country connectors, is to ensure that we are working beyond donation. So really making sure that we have the face-to-face or hand-in-hand interactions with them and getting feedback from them, but also getting participation from the users in the countries that we work. So the beyond donation, the global participation, and the local empowerment is being realized through the country connectors as well. When in all the work that we do align to our strategic plan. And the good thing is our strategic plan is also aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals. And in really customizing and understanding our work, we then focus on the regional goals as well. So we understand in each region what the goals are. And then at country level, we look at the national development plans. And within most of the plans in the countries that we're working on, there is always a goal or a pillar that talks to research or knowledge development or knowledge economies. And then we break that down to understand how we can really work with the users, add value to already what is happening in the country, and how we can engage with policymakers, with the researchers, librarians, different sorts of users that we have in the countries, and make sure that also we identify the local stakeholders that we should be partnering with to enable us to achieve our goals. So we do create those tailored approaches in our networking, in the promotion of the work that we do, and looking at the full research cycle and enable the information skills throughout the countries and the regions that we work in. We currently have 2 reports that are available on the Research4Life website, one for 2022 and another one for 2023. And we will be publishing soon our report for 2024 with much more detail on what I'm going to highlight today, and much more that I might have left out in the time that I was given today. So when we look at the countries that we are working in, For 2024, we managed to start implementing or extend implementation in 14 countries across the different regions that represent the Research4Life countries. And I must highlight also there that we have Honduras, which is a 15th country that we put in as pending, simply because unofficially Honduras, the partner that we have in Honduras, had already agreed that we can go on and mention them and be a partner with the Research4Life country connectors. However, we are still in the process of finalizing the formal agreement, so that's why they're showing as pending. But as Liz highlighted earlier on, we're very happy that in 2024, we started working in our first Portuguese-speaking countries, and I'm really happy that some of my colleagues from Angola are here on this town hall meeting. So we are now working in Angola, which is our first Portuguese-speaking country. In addition to that, we also onboarded Senegal and the Democratic Republic of Congo, which are the French countries, and El Salvador, which was already part of our program, which came on board as the first Spanish-speaking country. So Honduras for us is good because it will join El Salvador as the second Spanish-speaking country. We also got on board Uganda, which joined us towards the end of last year as an associate country connector, in addition to Ukraine, whom we've been working with as well. So I'm really happy that in terms of our language balance, we are really aiming to make sure that we work in the minority languages and ensure that these have access to the resources via Research4Life. One of the key areas that we measure the work that we're doing is to look at the number of new and revived institutions. The new institutions are those institutions that had never registered for Research4Life. And then we have what we call the revived institutions. So these are the number of institutions which we registered for Research4Life, but for some reason have not been using. And what the country connectors then do in the countries is to go and meet with the institutional management or librarians and get to understand what the problems are at institutional level and help them to overcome this. This could be because there's been turnover and there's no access to the logins, or this could be because of infrastructure, change in management, but many other reasons. But what we aim to do is to ensure that we then get them to start using Research4Life again. I'm really happy that I'm speaking after Martin, who's been talking about this really fantastic new innovation where we are going to have this seamless access to Research4Life, and it will help, especially in instances where there's forgetting of username and password, or there is turnover and other linked reasons as well. So I'm really happy that across our countries, the number of new institutions has grown, as well as the number of revived institutions. One of the key areas that we work in is to ensure that we resolve the local queries. So a lot of users turn to our country connectors first to resolve their everyday queries. This helps to really alleviate the pressure that we have with our help desk team, which is working in many other countries beyond the country connector countries. And what the country connectors have done in a majority of our countries is create local groups, whether it's on WhatsApp or mailing lists, and they engage with the users in different categories. So we've got high users, we've got low users, and we also have our ambassador groups. So it's really interesting platform where there's a lot of engagement, where there's identification of ambassadors who are really the people that then work with the country connectors to extend the use of Research4Life and all the other activities that the country connectors have, and ensure that our users have got a go-to person at their own local institution. So I'm really happy that in all the countries that we're working in, we have identified active ambassadors, some of you which I could identify actually in the participants list today. So it's really good and encouraging. And for us, it's one of the key areas that we want to make sure that we sustain the impact of Research4Life and all its linked activities within the countries as well. So the list of ambassadors continues to grow in the different countries, and we continue to make sure that the users have got a familiar face or someone who speaks their language in the country to help with these local queries as well. Then one of the areas that we also look at is the number of publications and citations in each of the countries. And again, I'm happy to see that there has been growth. If we compare especially 2023 to 2024, the number of citations is really grown immensely. And then when we look at the number of publications, this has also really grown significantly. So it's really good to see that there is a lot of impact in most of the countries. There are 1 or 2 countries where we still want to have much more, especially in terms of publications. So when we look at countries like Moldova, and we look at countries like El Salvador, where the growth has not happened as much as we would want, actually, and want to then understand what are the problems and how can we help them better in terms of making sure that their publications are made visible, and there's a higher number of publications, and that they are also made visible, because one of our goals is to make sure that the publications of the research that is coming out from the LMICs is made visible as well. Then talking about visibility of published works or research in the LMICs, I'm happy that Liz talked about our collaboration with the Director of Open Access Journals, because this enabled us to actually work across these 4 language groups when we partnered with the Director of Open Access Journals, initially into end of 2023, when we ran a pilot course really targeted at some of the country connector countries. And then last year in 2024, we managed to then expand this and work throughout all the country connector countries and even extended countries as well, especially when we went into languages like Spanish and French, where we wanted to then bring in other countries that are eligible for Research4Life. And this year in 2025, our plan and our collaboration with DOJ is continuing, and we want to bring on board a course also in Portuguese. So I'm really happy that last year we were able to collaborate with DOJ. And here I must also highlight that I didn't list it on the previous slide, but I must also highlight that we did have a course, very attractive course, very high demand course in Ukrainian, which was also run last year. So the course runs over a period of 4 weeks and with 4 modules. And we're really happy with the registration rate, but as well as the participation rate. And we are working on now extending and making sure that those who have been trained in this first course go on to have more interactions and more engagements with the country connectors and build on their skills as well. So one of the examples is an impact story, is the Bhutan Health Journal, which went on to be indexed by DOAJ and is now available, accessible via Research4Life. And I won't talk a lot about it because as Liz highlighted it earlier. In terms of our local communications, the country connectors have been really driving this in the countries, making sure that whatever is communicated, especially at global level, is then trickled down into our user base in the countries. And where necessary, we do translations into the local languages and make sure that we get the information on the platforms where our users and where management, policymakers, and government actually have access. So here I've just shown 3 examples, but there are many other examples of how we're communicating locally. And I did speak earlier about the case of El Salvador, which has really gone on to create a chatbot on their local website, where you get to interact with the country connectors and engage and understand how Research4Life works, or if you've got any query. This is one of the innovative strategies that was developed by the country connectors in El Salvador as well. Our country connectors also are very creative. We have cases where country connectors engage with local mass media. So here I've highlighted a colleague from Ghana who has gone on to do some interviews on the national radio and the local radio, which is very encouraging, because these are platforms that you would normally not think of. But in the case of Ghana, this works. So for us, this is a platform where we have identified that we can actually reach the right audience that still engage and use radio in the country as well as making sure that even on the institutional websites, there's as much communication and as much information about what we're doing in the countries and in the regions as well. Then one of the areas that we've been really looking at is the ambassador networks, which I talked about. And for us, our focus is to make sure that we support and we strengthen and we grow the number of ambassadors in the countries. Ambassadors for us are quite key because, as you can imagine, we cannot work across all the institutions at the same time, especially in our bigger countries. So by having ambassadors who are located in the different institutions, in the remote institutions, it enables us to make sure that we have the hands and the feet for anything that we want to do with the country connectors. So our country connectors may work with the ambassadors to make sure that they've got the skills and the capabilities, but also to make sure that they have the resources. So here I've highlighted an example of some of the mini grants that we're providing to some of these ambassadors. And here there's an example from Tanzania, where we make sure that they have got small grants that will enable them to run maybe a 1-day workshop or a 2-day workshop, but also to make sure that they support their users more efficiently. So here, this is a group of ambassadors from Bhutan, and I'm really happy, like I said, that we have identified ambassadors in all the country connectors countries, and we will continue to strengthen and grow this ambassador network. So looking ahead, we really want to make sure that we intensify our support for our countries that are graduating to associate and emeritus status. So we have got countries that have shown growth within the groups that the initial group that we're working with, and that are graduating into emeritus status, meaning that they have worked within the structure, but they using a specific checklist. We see that they're strong enough, or they've got enough local support to continue the work on their own with some of our support. And where we talk about associate countries, I gave the example of Uganda and Ukraine. These are really countries that work within our structure, and that we give all the support as we would all the other countries, but we do not provide the same level of financial funding to those countries. And we are identifying more and more countries that want to come on board and that are putting up their hands that they would like to work as country connectors and utilize the structure and the work that and the support that we have currently. So this is quite encouraging for us as well. So we want to continue to intensify that support going forward. We also want to expand the support that we are currently having for the publishers, the local publishers in these countries, and help raise the visibility of research from these countries, as well as to intensify the work with the ambassadors that I talked about for long-term sustainability. And one key area for us is to ensure that we have more intentionality around the way we work with women, especially women scientists, librarians, policymakers, and researchers as well. So we really want to be much more intentional. We have been working with these different women categories, but want to make sure that we are much more intentional and focused going forward in this area. And we also want to make sure that at local level, we deepen our relationships and our collaborations with the different stakeholders. So whether it's stakeholders like the National Research and Education Networks, or any other stakeholder, whether it's the policy institutions, whether it's working with our TISC colleagues from the WIPO offices, TISC offices, we really want to make sure that we strengthen the relationships to ensure that we are able to really achieve all our 4 goals as Research4Life and the country connectors as well. So I'm going to stop here. See, my time is up, and look forward to any questions or comments. Thank you so much.
Super, thank you, Blessing. So I'm just going to return back to our main deck. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about longer term strategy. And you may remember this rather busy slide that I've shared before if you've joined us for our last town hall or for the GPM meeting. But we're now 2 years into our strategic plan. And on the left-hand side, you'll see the core areas for our objectives. So around user experience and marketing communications, product and service diversification, and funding and governance. So there are 3 kind of areas, and then we have various different work streams within that. And we have particular project areas that we've been working on, and we've talked through a few of them today. The Global South publisher engagement, for example, having more user representation in our committees. And so we've made good progress and you'll see we've put them on green and amber where we've made good progress, or we're starting to make progress. In grey, we have a couple of categories where we've agreed they're not priorities for us right now. That doesn't mean we won't pick them up, but we're not going to make them our priorities in the first place. So what we're focusing on really now are the red areas. So the areas where we want to make progress, but we've been somewhat stuck. And one really relates to the other. So the first is around technology to ensure we have a familiar user experience. And we started the work on user journey mapping with our country connectors last year. And we really want to pick up on that, mapping the user journey from sign on to access. And obviously that's enhanced by the NREN project that we're working on. And we'd really love that to be our default way of working going forward. But that depends on some funding and ensuring we have that support. And at the moment, our funding through Friends of Research4Life is we have a part-time person working and doing a great job, and we're starting to do some interesting work. Have put in our first philanthropic grant proposal. So that's quite exciting for us as we see a shift from fundraising, which has mostly been through publishers for our Country Connector project, to finding other parties who might fund our work. So that's another area we really want to focus on, building up the infrastructure of Research4Life and Friends such that we can do more of that kind of work. And the other area is really a kind of bandwidth question we haven't got round to, is drafting job descriptions for all of our committee roles. So I'll move on to, and you may remember this slide again from last time, the longer term strategy. We've tried to kind of work through some stages, and all these stages really rely on funding of some sort, or prioritization within some of our committees. So we have various different programs and outcomes that we're heading for. And we've mapped out these projects that will support our strategy. So we've made some really good progress, you'll see, in developing regional publishing. We've also worked well with our new equity committee, and they're looking into a survey for our low and middle income country researchers to ensure we understand their priorities. So we've started some work on thinking about what the questions might be, and in that committee. And so those two projects are really moving forward. Third area, I guess, to highlight is our impact report. So the impact report is important not only for all the partners who are involved in Research4Life, but also for us to think about how we might fundraise for the future. So it's part of a suite of communications tools that we've been developing, and Evelyn has played an amazing role in doing this, in helping us develop user stories and videos that we have now up on our website, and you'll probably have seen those through social media. So we've got some places we're a bit stuck and we want some more funding. And of course, it wouldn't be a Research4Life meeting if we didn't talk a little bit about the funding. And as the chair of the Finance Oversight Committee, I feel it's my duty to communicate some of that out to everybody in the partnership. So you remember Research4Life relies on funding from, at the moment, the Group B fees, and that raises about $220,000 a year. But that's not enough to cover our core operations. And previously we've been digging into our reserves to cover that overflow. And we're not able to do that anymore. We've got to the end of that particular pot. And so what we're looking for is funding to top up our core operations. So they're the 4 boxes on the right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side, we're looking for investments. So the Country Connector project has been amazingly successful, and we're delighted to be supported by a number of major publisher partners to get that kicked off and to start the process of gathering evidence to demonstrate the value of this. But we also want to do some other work. I've talked a bit about the user journey mapping. If Martin had longer, he would tell us more about the technology and the fact that we need to ensure Research4Life's technology is really fit for purpose. We've also got AI now to consider. So how does AI change the way that we need to provide the portal service for search and discovery, and change the way that our users will be interacting with it? We also want to revamp our courses. So our massive online open courses that we've been running for years. We recognize we need to revamp them, and we have one module so far developed in a new app that enables a kind of quick and easy training course, and we want to expand that to cover all of our core subject areas. Equally, we want to work on a knowledge-based training catalogue. So this is looking at the kinds of trainings that are available all around the internet for different subject areas in research skills. And that's an area we're committed to, and we want to develop that catalogue such that those links, the list of links, is curated and available to people across our community. So how can you get involved if you want to contribute? We love you to contribute to Friends of Research for Life, and we have the option to become a member or a partner at various different levels, depending on your organisation size and the commitment that you're willing to make. But really, we're happy to take any level of donation, and we particularly love our partners to fundraise through kind of activities in their publishing organisation. So for a run or something that would kind of bring people together to help support Research for Life. So we really encourage you to get involved. And if you want to know more, please get in touch with me. I'm totally happy to speak to anybody about it. So that is the end of our formal town hall slides. So I'm going to hand over now to Tandy, and Tandy is our vice chair, the Research for Life Executive Council, and she's going to host any questions that are coming in on the Q&A or the chat. Over to you, Tandy.
Thank you, Sarah, and thanks everyone for very good presentations from Liz, Blessing, and Martin. So now we are inviting questions. If you have any questions, please, you can go ahead. We still have like 27 minutes to the top of the hour. So I welcome questions. We have had presentations on, Liz talked about the success stories and what happened to the AGM last year, and Martin talked about technology, and Blessing talked about Country Connectors program, which is doing very well, and also Sarah talked about the strategic plan and how we are implementing it.
Andy, if nobody has a question,
Yeah.
can I kick off with a question for Martin, which I already asked him, so I know he knows the answer to this, but how does he think we're going to be able to scale up across these NRENs, across more of our countries? And what do we need? What support do we need to get there?
Thank you so much, Sarah. To scale, on our side, we basically need supplementary support tickets with our authentication provider, process. That's the main thing, to help in some technical, fixes, bug fixes, and all that we might not handle ourselves. So we need that level so that we don't drop something that we have picked. That's the level of investment that is required now to ensure that we are able to onboard institutions. And that is on the technical support beyond what works. This is in situations whereby the solution we have is either not working with a particular IDP solution that we did not encounter during testing, because there are so many IDP softwares outside there. So in case something is not working, we need that support, supplementary support with the authentication provider process. Yes, and then whereby we can do things, then some of them will be done by us at Research4Life. But if we don't have that, then if we get issues that were not captured during testing in the pilot project, then we cannot onboard such users. So that's the main thing. We need to purchase supplementary support tickets beyond our normal support from POTSIS that we get annually. So we need that. And then, yes, so of course, we're also going to require some dedicated time from us, of course, from me, beyond what we're already doing, to make sure that all institutions that are ready are onboarded and probably onboarded timely. But also, of course, we offer support beyond just the onboarding. People come with queries and all that we need to respond and respond within our service level agreement timelines. Sorry, and yes, that is it. And then the other work is on the side of the institutions, making sure that they have support, as I said, within their institutions or from their enrollments, so that, yes, they can manage their environments and then also do the things we tell them to do in the onboarding process. Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Martin.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other question. Maybe I'll also like to ask Blessing for the project that she's working on. We have seen a number of countries like Ghana, Kenya, where they are doing very well in terms of registration, publications, and citations. I was just wondering about the other countries. What do we need to do to improve the statistics? And maybe second, I've seen a comment from Sonia who said, can we add other metrics like number of the researchers' population in the country? And maybe if you have ever thought about adding more metrics when gauging or when comparing one country to the other, maybe in terms of the technological infrastructure, number of higher learning institutions and the like, that will really support to explain why other countries have more publications as compared to others. You're welcome.
Thanks, Tandy, for those questions. So we do have a number of other metrics. It's just that I try to highlight, but you'll find in our report. So for example, we do talk about the number of institutions, so that we track as far as the institutions that we know of. And of course, the country connectors continue to find out more institutions that are eligible in the countries as well. So that is information that we have. And if you're talking about the number of registered institutions in a country, that is also available on the website. I do like the idea that was proposed to track the number of researchers. We initially, in 2022, started this process of looking at the number of full researchers in a country. Unfortunately, in a bigger number of our countries, this information is not easily available. So where we got to was just understanding, for example, the number of faculty at all the institutions where they've registered for Research4Life, or the ones that we've identified, in the number of researchers generally in the research institutions working in the departments of research in the government ministries. But this is not fully indicative. So this is something I think from even the suggestion we can take forward and try and see how else we can get the data, the correct data per country. And then when you look at the publications and citations, there are different factors that affect the publication and citations. You're correct. There are countries, smaller countries like Bhutan. Bhutan is actually doing well, because if you look at it, it's one of our smallest countries together with Liberia. And if you also look at the number of institutions there, they're quite low. So you find that their numbers in terms of their publication outputs and the citations are low. But also other varied reasons. We do use this data from Dimensions data, and we try and triangulate and use other forms of data as well as much as possible. But we saw that this is quite consistent. That's why we try to showcase it. But this is one of the reasons. One of the things that we are doing together with the Capacity Development Committee this year is to ensure that we continue our courses, which really look at all the other aspects of publishing. So we have a number of our publisher partners some of whom are on this call, who are coming together with the Capacity Development Committee and making sure that we provide the training around how to publish, to understand the whole publishing process, because this is one key area that we see that some of our users do not have the skills. So this is one area that we are working with the country connectors also in the countries to make sure we build up the skills and help our researchers to be able to publish and publish internationally. Another key area that we want to highlight that is not counted in our metrics is the number of local publications that we have in the countries and the number of publications coming from those local journals, especially journals. So what we have done with the country connectors is we've now listed all the local publishers that we have in each country. And our next steps is to now ensure that we understand those that are available online, because some of those are not available online. So also those missed metrics that we could be reporting on and that are not indicated in the table that I showed, because there is also publication that is being done at local level. So we're really working to make sure that we prioritize making visible the publications and research that is also coming from the Global South. But we'll continue to look at the metrics that you've also suggested, Tandy. Thank you.
Thank you, Blessing. I can see other questions for you. There's a question from Peter. He says, how did you get the number of publications per country, and how can I get the number of publications specifically for my researchers from my institution? And then another question is about training manual for librarians on plagiarism software like Turnitin. And I think this is not on what we presented. Blessing, you can go ahead and answer Peter's question.
So the data that I showed is from Dimensions data. So that is per country level. But there are different ways if you want to track your publication per country and even by institution. So I would ask Peter maybe to reach out to me directly, and then I can give him links to some of these databases where you can look up, especially at institutional level. I know this is always something that librarians especially want to track, or even faculty as well, to see where they are. On the training manuals for anti-plagiarism, this is a question maybe I can say we could give to the Capacity Development Committee, because they do cover some aspects of it when they talk about plagiarism in the training. I know definitely talks about plagiarism in most of their trainings. But yeah, that's what I can say about that second question, Tandy.
Yeah, and maybe if Henry can consult the Turnitin, maybe they can also share the training manual. I'm sure they should have it, since they're developing the system, and then they should have the training manual. So I don't see any other question from the chat. Are there any other questions? We still have like 16 minutes. Otherwise, I don't see any questions, but thank you very much for okay. Eric, you are welcome.
Thank you, Tandy. Good afternoon. This is me from Ghana on behalf of the conductors. This is not a question. We have a lot to do this year, and so I just want to thank the capacity development team, and especially Blessing, for the support they've been giving Ghana. Sometimes very difficult to get training programs on the timing that we hope to have, because the institutions and the staffing and the anticipated participants also have their timing and work schedule, but they're always very patient, and even sometimes Lenny especially, have to join it very early in the morning or late because of time differences, but they're always able to support us. Just want to say thank you to them. And on that note, as Oliver Twist, hope that this year too they'll be with us so we can do more. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Eric, for the compliments, and to the capacity building team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your person, Bob.
Any other question? I don't see a hand. Oh, you have a question, Joyce Balidawa. Yes, you're welcome.
Yes.
Joyce?
Good evening, good morning, everyone. This is Joyce, Kenya Country Connector. Mine was to see if we can actually, as we ask our respective institutions to support us, to have a document which actually specifically outlines what each of our institutions should actually be supporting us with, because it's when you just go and tell them, by the way, we are expected to get support from the institution, and we have no documentary evidence to support the kind of support that is required, then we have a big challenge even convincing the system to even support us. So is it possible, or is this not the right forum to ask such a question?
A blessing. Would you respond to that question?
I think more the financial support. Maybe Sarah, is there a document that they can provide to their, or if they can point to the committee, maybe in terms of any other support from the institutions?
Yeah, we have a challenge at MOI CHS, that's College of Health Sciences, in trying to convince. We do have a number of support systems which actually make good use of the information that is coming up from Research4Life. But now when they ask us, and what kind of support would you like us to give? Word of mouth alone is not enough. And of course, they're looking at two ladies and saying, well, where is this coming from? We're trying to align ourselves with WHO, Research4Life, and the like. So we're just asking for support if we can have that support document, so that whenever we're approaching anybody, at least they can understand why we need the support and why the magnitude of the support that can actually be requested from the institution. And we also have to explain it to the various institutions if they're going to help us, especially when we're using them through the ambassadors.
Let's pick this up, Joyce, Yumi and Blessing. Like, what exactly is needed, and then we can think about how best to support you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Now I'll invite Grace. Grace, you're welcome.
Thank you, Tandy. Good evening, everyone. My question is on the presentation from the ICT team. We had heard about the federated single sign-on, which looks to be a very good option in the future. My question is, since these NRENs are the institutions which connects other institutions with internet, like ISP, now, what will happen if some of the institutions are not using those NRENs for the internet? Will they be also able to be connected? Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. I will now invite Martin.
Yes, thank you. All NRENs, the ones we have spoken to, will provide identity federation services for their users, and they have their own requirements to get registered. So the most appropriate answer is check with your NREN on what is required. I don't know the requirements for all, but they should be able to register your institution, but that is assuming that they already have set an identity federation in that country. Some NRENs still don't have it. Some are in the process of establishing them. And then some of them are working directly with the catch-all federation, that is edu.africa. So you need to get in touch with your NREN for specific guidance on how to get onboarded if they already have a federation that is already existing, or if they are in the process, they will be more like appropriate to give you the correct answer that is specific to your situation. So I encourage you to contact your NRENs within your country.
Thank you very much, Martin. Okay, thank you. Any other question? We still have 10 more minutes. Okay, we are welcome, Eric.
Yes, on the issue of support, I don't know if this helps, but in Ghana, what we did initially after the official email address was to create a letterhead using Research4Life and also putting our contact and all. So anytime we intend to initiate a workshop or program with any institution, we make sure that that's what we use for the letter. And when we need to include blessing, we do that, and it makes it easier. Once they see the Research4Life and they see that country representatives in Ghana, it gives it some leverage for them to understand that these are people who are officially related. And so if that's the kind of support they're talking about, maybe they can try that if they haven't not done that yet. Create a letterhead for the country connectors in the country, and then use that to send the invitations and provide the request for training and partnership to the various institutions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. I'm sure Blessing and Sarah will take that up during the further discussion with Joyce. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Kim. I think, Grace, you have noted that Kim has said there's also Edu ID Africa. Maybe you can check it up. And Isabel is asking that, can other institutions join the pilot project? I think this question is directed to Martin. Martin?
Yes, the short answer is yes. And then subject to the other things, I said readiness. An institution has to be already registered member of Research4Life or eligible to register, be part of a federation, an identity federation, and then have technical support in your institution or from your identity federation. So once you have ticked those boxes, you're ready, just write to us, we will onboard you.
Okay, thank you for the good work you are doing with that project. So, any other question, members? We still have 8 minutes to the top of the hour. I don't see any other question. So at this moment, okay, another question from Nelson. Nelson, is there a role of CLISC? I think this is in Kenya, in terms of country connector for Kenya. I think, Blessing, that should be your question.
Yes,
It's
thank
on
you.
the chat. Yeah.
Yes, so CLISC has actually come on board, and starting from this year, they will be working hand in hand with Moi University as the country connectors in Kenya. CLISC is the consortium, the library consortium in Kenya, just for clarification for those who are not from Kenya. So we're really happy that they've come on board, because Kenya is quite a big country and with a high number of tertiary and research institutions. So we're really happy to have them on board, and we've started our engagements. So if you're a member of CLISC, they will definitely be communicating soon.
Okay, thank you for such a good news. Okay, Kimberly, you're welcome.
Yeah, I just thought I would take this wonderful opportunity to thank all of the publishers who have been providing their content through Research4Life for almost 25 years now. It's about 23, 24 years. Because the fact that they've all stuck with the program means that we've been able to do such wonderful work over that period of time, and it's provided stability for our institutions to know that they will continue to have the access. So, it's easy to start taking them for granted when they've been doing things for more than 2 decades, but I think they deserve a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kim. Yeah, we really appreciate what they have been doing for many years. Martin? Oh, you are just clapping. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? So I would like to thank all the presenters, Blessing, Liz, Martin, and Sarah, for sharing all the good experiences and all the work that Research4Life has been doing. And I would like now to thank everyone for participating. We have got a very good number of you that attended from different countries with different timelines. So thank you very much for attending this, and we look forward for the next year town hall, and we look forward to seeing you at the upcoming AGM in the UK. Otherwise, thank you and bye, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Tandy. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.